Welcome to Millennial Man, the 13th floor, Chapter 1, Identity, Purpose, and Self-Worth. What is your identity? What is your purpose? What are you worth? Who are you as a man in America during this millennium? Do you feel good about your current position? When I talk about identity, I'm not merely talking about your birth name or the number you were assigned by the government. That identity can be stolen. Rather, the man you are currently, what you have been known for in the past, and what you would like to be known for in the future. Every man, to be successful and confident in his own manhood, needs to have a solid identity, purpose, and self-worth. We are all at different stages of being, from age to race, culture, level of knowledge and intellect, spirituality, and psychological state. We all differ in some variation of life's reality. But this topic is pertinent to each one, no matter where or who you are in your journey as a millennial man. I'm raising this issue of identity, purpose, and self-worth for the millennial man because without a good understanding of ourselves and what we are worth, we are lost, confused, maybe even in pain or searching for answers or an explanation to all the injustices and contradictions we see all around us in this life. Uncertainty about these three issues have been the cause for a lot of weakness in our men, past, present, and will be into the future if we don't address the need immediately. I've personally lacked identity, purpose, and self-worth at some point in my life. I know how detrimental lack of having all three within our minds and hearts inventory can be to growth, success, understanding, peace of mind, staying out of jail, and accomplishing our duty as millennial men. In order to fully understand the position of our own thinking, that of society, and that of our current leadership, we need to understand our identity, purpose, and self-worth as men first. If a man does not have an identity, purpose, and self-worth, this can be, and usually is, very destructive to himself and those within close proximity of his being. This lack has also led many men down the wrong path, seeking relief from the psychological burden this truth of not knowing who you are causes. Mistakes, foolish decisions, and other failures can often be associated with lack of identity, purpose, and self-worth. What is the depth of need in each man? How severe are the worries pertaining to gaining these three things? Each man lacking faces a certain dilemma. Psychologically, each man has a different thinking pattern and will deal with these concerns in a different manner. Some will fear, some will not. Some will chart their own course. Some will fall in with the first group available. Depends on the individual and what he's been taught and subjected to. When a man lacks in these three areas, he is usually easily influenced and even weak and susceptible to deception. He may even accept circumstances that those who have a strong sense of identity, purpose, and self-worth would never accept. These three character traits, or lack of, have to do with our habits, our ethics, hobbies, addiction, and what we allow ourselves to become a part of. I've had hundreds of conversations with men on these issues, and others addressed in Millennial Man. I have come to realize that identity, purpose, and self-worth of man in the United States is an important issue that needs much more attention than it is receiving currently in our institutions of learning, such as universities, schools, churches, and homes. Millennial Man is a perfect opportunity to look at these three vital issues that have such an impact on men's lives in this nation. It would do each man well to question his own identity, purpose, and self-worth. I'm sure we could all find room for improvement and come to realize some vital personal truths as we examine ourselves. Successful men know very well their identity, purpose, and self-worth. As I mention this, please don't think success can only be measured in monetary terms. Success can be a state of mind, a spiritual state of being, and can also be measured by how you impact the world around you. Those who know and hear you. For some men, gaining an identity, purpose, and self-worth is the simple resolution to seemingly world-shattering problems. How we view ourselves has a direct impact on who we become. If we do not view ourselves in a positive light, we may not even consider the issue at all out of fear or discomfort psychologically. We may think or feel that we don't deserve any position of success or leadership, thinking of ourselves as losers or as insufficient, unable to lead or teach. Some men, no doubt, have already accepted identities that the world around them have assigned to them. This could be critical parents or teachers, peers, etc. Too often, dysfunctional influences dictate man's identity, purpose, and self-worth. To have identity and purpose are two of our most important needs psychologically, along with being appreciated, needed, and wanted. All of these are part of a well-rounded man's psychology. What can happen to a man without an identity, purpose, and self-worth? Could a man who lacks these three expect to be preyed upon, misled, or manipulated by those who have a learned mind that recognize these shortcomings? There are those who will manipulate you and your ignorance and weaknesses to further their own gain or idealisms, instead of helping you to learn and recognize the necessary truths in order to find success and overcome your lack. Deep down, we all seek place and purpose. We have a natural need of a comfort zone. We often seek refuge from uncertainty among others, individuals or groups and organizations. Whether women, friends, cliques, gangs, churches, work, bars, and or substance abuse. A man who lacks identity and purpose will seek acceptance among others. Often the first to welcome him with open arms is who gets our loyalty despite who they are or what they stand for. This truth happens on many levels, from the streets to the Ivy League all the way to the highest offices of leadership. Let's consider two types of men who may one day seek identity and purpose, each just as important as the other to the discussion. A college student who hasn't had much teaching growing up. An ex-convict who decides to make a positive change in his life. Please realize I'm not speaking about all men who are in these positions, but some. Simply using their example in the discussion to illustrate the need of all men, no matter the situation our lives find us in, to take a look at the issue. I think it's safe to say we all seek acceptance of some type. That is a normal fact of life. Try to envision the need for the young college student to find place in the world and fit in with his peers. Then try to envision an ex-convict also seeking place and purpose, a new identity of a good man. Both men are in a vulnerable state of mind as the natural need to feel accepted or to be a part of something good presses the conscience. Comfort zone, follow the crowds, to be a part of the norm. What are the options available for the college student? It could be peers, cliques, fraternity, organizations, church, etc. For the ex-convict, the options are similar: school, church, organizations. Each man is faced with finding a place in the world, ready for molding or being molded into a valuable identity with a purpose. Let me ask you an honest question. Have you ever tried to be something you were not, just to fit in? Do you ever recall doing things or being things to impress others or to please others? To affect how others view you? Of course, most of us have done something similar. A lot of men fall into this category and are often manipulated into a lifestyle, career, and political beliefs to enable another to control you. The reason I am addressing these two different scenarios for men seeking place is because I've been both. I've been both at the same time that I've lacked identity, purpose, and questioned my own self-worth. I also happen to know there are millions of men in America under similar circumstances. Men with identity, purpose, and self-worth are not easily manipulated. Two types of men that I have not been are soldiers in the military and the privileged. But they too are part of the discussion on the Millennial Man. Identity, purpose, and self-worth. These issues really are quite profound when it comes to the effects they have on the psychology of men in our nation and, in effect, the whole world. A soldier who questions his identity and purpose, having signed on to a just cause, a righteous cause, he often serves his country just to come home questioning himself. Post-traumatic stress syndrome, psychological problems, depression. I'm quite certain these issues, in part, have to do with how a soldier views himself. Therefore, it ties directly with our subject. Since the beginning of time, we've seen violence and wars. Men take part in both, at times justified, at times not so much. How does one kill and destroy and be at peace with himself? The answers lie in the justifications of the killing and destroying. It's okay for a just cause, most will claim. What plays with a man's psychological what plays with a man's psychology, sense of identity, purpose, and self-worth are the killing and destroying for reasons unknown, or reasons that were presented to you in a deceptive manner. Truth being exposed after the killing and destroying, causing a man to realize he was but a puppet being manipulated. That millennial man is a hard pill to swallow psychologically. A child or man of privilege. We've all heard that successful men are often bred by privilege. Men who aren't raised in privilege rarely become successful. They are at a disadvantage. I ask you, when you are raised under privilege, are you your own man? Or does your identity come from those who raised you? Men of privilege question themselves. They must answer to a name or an organization, just another form of a puppet. Living according to what others expect of you. Is it a coincidence that the military and groups, organizations, and fraternity all recruit men of a young, impressionable age, usually 18 to 25? Granted, age alone gives a certain privilege. Men begin to think deeply and independently at 30 to 45 years of age. Manipulation of youthful minds and hearts to pursue unjust causes is quite shameful, despite being a common practice. Where are the millennial men? It is the education of these men that holds the power of change. It is these men who make up a force unstoppable to any opposition. Why are the men of this country not being utilized? Why is the resource of millennial manpower not being tapped? Why are the cliques, organizations, churches, and institutions of learning not producing world-changing results? In our nation, we all sense the need, yet the ones addressing the need seem to be failing. The answer is quite simple. The education of millennial men is lacking in truth, strength, wisdom, common sense, knowledge, and natural order. As a result, perverse and divisive teachings are becoming commonplace. What is natural order for the millennial man? What is creation's intention for man? How can we find and apply these principles to the education of the millennial man's life? Also to the problems we face in our daily lives as a nation, once again gaining smooth order. I will list a few of our natural principles that any honest soul of a sound mind and intellect should not be able to refute. Despite what many people try to impose on what life means, we can get a definite and true answer from the beauty and evidence within the amazing order some call a miracle of life itself, that cannot be denied. Biologically, a man is built to handle hard work. His muscle mass and frame are much different than the soft feminine features of a childbearing female frame. Men have a certain designation in natural order. Men are at their best when fulfilling their natural role of worker, provider, protector, teacher, and leader. When a millennial man has a sound sense of identity, purpose, and self-worth, and when his life is in motion as the being of a millennial man, he is at the top of his game, an unstoppable force of good, and all who are affected by him are blessed. He will not easily be led astray from truth and justice, and he is not easily manipulated into action for causes of unjust idealisms and perversions of order. Just imagine a whole nation of millennial men, each serving his natural role, each having a sound identity, purpose, and self-worth. Just imagine a whole nation of millennial men, each with an identity, purpose, and self-worth that aligns perfectly with natural order. This is a worthy goal for all men, young and old, all millennial men.